What's up, everybody? It's your boy Tricky Jackson in the house with Real Talk. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the quote unquote Super Bowl of Bodybuilding. I want to start off by saying that I think that we should stop referring to the Olympia as the Super Bowl of Bodybuilding. And here's why. Think about this when I tell you this. In the Super Bowl, every athlete that competes in the Super Bowl, whether you're on the field or whether you're on the sideline as a sub, second, third string, will receive some type of compensation. And at the Olympia, the only individuals that receive compensation in the form of prize money will be first through fifth. Now, let me tell you what made me talk about this today. I was listening to a talk show, Mike Rashad, I believe the guy's name is, and he had Jay Cutler and he had Dexter Jackson on there. And two great guys, two great ambassadors for the sport. And they were discussing how the prize money has really jumped up over the years in the sport of bodybuilding. I think that they talked about when they won the Olympia, I think when Dexter won, he said he won $175,000, and I believe when Jay won it, he won $200,000. And then he said a couple of years later, it doubled and went to $400,000 when Phil won it, and he was like, "Damn, I wish I hadn't retired so soon," or something that nature. But needless to say, the money has increased, and I think that they've done an excellent job on the IFBB by increasing the prize money. And I talked about this years ago with Bob Ciccarillo, the problem that I feel from an athlete standpoint, and obviously I'm retired now, is that the extra money that they have been acquiring is going to the same spots, and that's the top five. So you got 15, 20, maybe even 25 athletes in a division, and 5 are walking away with checks. But at this event, again, it's supposed to be the Super Bowl, the best of the best. And everybody should be able to come away with some type of compensation. I remember the first years that I did the Olympia, and the first year for me was 2008. During that period of time, the open division, matter of fact, it may have been in 2008, I believe there were 17 competitors. Now, I haven't gone back and double-checked my history. I'm going off memory here. You guys can do that yourself for all your analytics out there. But I remember the top 10 making pretty good money. And then if you were 11th through 17th, everybody got, if I'm not mistaken, it was $2,000. So everybody was compensated. That was in the open division only. 202 as well as the other divisions were top 5. So the following year, I believe, or it was a year or two later, they actually increased the prize money, but the prize money went down to the top 10 in the open, and it increased for the 212s in those 5 divisions. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. At that time, I was placing in the top 10, and I wasn't getting compensated. So that's one of the reasons this touches me at home, is because I was one of the athletes that felt this need, that something needed to change. I was also very fortunate, though, to be one of the athletes that was sponsored. So I was a sponsored athlete at that period of time, and so my company that was sponsoring me covered my expenses outside of what the Olympia covered. So what the Olympia did do was they did cover the athletes' expenses, their hotel, and they covered your transportation. But obviously there's other things that you spend out of pocket, and also money that you spend during prep. So the company that sponsored me covered those expenses. So I didn't lose any money per se, but I didn't gain any money either from the standpoint of being in the biggest show in our sport, which I thought at that time was a problem. So I remember the second year of the 212s, actually it was a 202 division, and I was backstage, and for some odd reason, I sort of was the voice for the 212s for a short period of time. And I think it's because when the division came along, I wanted to see our division treated fairly because we worked just as hard as the open division. The only difference was we were smaller in stature, but the same work, prep, diet, eating, training, supplementation was the same for the 212s and 202s as it was for the open guys. So, me being wherever I was in my career at the time, I thought to myself, I said, you know what? We need to get some of the top guys on board and try to, talk to the athletes rep and let him know what our thoughts are. I remember vividly having this conversation backstage with David Henry, Jose Raymond, I believe Guy Sicilino was there, Kevin English, Flex Lewis. And I was like, hey guys, what do you guys think about, if they increase the money? And I believe they were going to increase it by $25,000 that year. And I said, my suggestion was, what if we take $10,000 of that and each guy from 6th through 10th gets $2,000, and then the rest goes into the top 5. And none of those guys really wanted to back me on it. And to a certain degree, I could understand why. It's because those were the guys that were in the top 5 consistently. And so the money that they added went into that top 5, and so it benefited those guys. Now, obviously, a lot of people would say, well, what the other guys need to do is bust their ass and make that top 5. I agree and I disagree. Because again, this is supposed to be the biggest sport of our event. So ideally everyone busts their ass anyway to get to the event. Throughout the course of the year, prepping for shows, trying to get the win. And during that period of time, if you got the win, that's how you got there. Or if you got first, second, or third, which is a whole nother story I want to talk about at another time, is the difference between the old system where you placed in the top 3, and then they went to the point system, which I thought the old system was the better system. I do not like the point system at all because guys have to do too many shows to get the points to get to the Olympia, and then when you get to the Olympia, you're out of gas to do your best. And then now I don't even think the point guys get their expenses paid for. So that was an ideal that Bob Ciccarello came up with without any input from the athletes. So back to my discussion. So I'm having this conversation with the guys, and I say, hey guys, let's try to get this, let's try to talk to them about this maybe after the show for next year or something of that nature. Like I said, there was no support on that. The reason I tell this story, and like I said, some people feel like, well, Tricky, if you weren't one of those guys, then that's why you probably felt like that. But where I was winning money was I was winning money as the best poser. I probably won 10, maybe 12 best poser awards, and I received a check every time I won that award. So that's how I was winning money. But what I suggested was, look, if you're going to give out $5,000 for the best poser award, and guys are, getting in the show and say, okay, I'm not going to put a routine together because Tricky's going to win this award. I suggested, hey, why don't we take and divide the prize money up and give it out to the best 3 posers? So it would be a first place, second place, third place, divide the $5,000 up or the $1,000, whatever it was. Because again, I'm thinking in my head, hey, we got to get more athletes making money in our sport. And what basically happened was it went the other direction, and they just completely cut out the best poser awards. So again, so now it's less money for athletes to have an opportunity to make money. And I think that's a difficult thing to be able to expect competitors to continue to try to compete at an event like this and put all their heart and soul in it and spend all kinds of money to prepare for it, only to walk away with with nothing to really show for it. And I'm going to give you guys something to think about. I competed in the Olympia 7 times, and one time I placed 6th. So I was 6th in the world, and I got a check for $1,000. So of 7 Olympia appearances, I was compensated $1,000. Something to think about. And, again, I'm not knocking the IFBB because I think they've done a great job. I just think that we can do things better. And I just think it takes a group of athletes, a group of promoters, a group of judges to say, hey, let's rethink this. Let's think about this. Maybe some of these guys are on to something. I don't want to put too much pressure on Chicarillo. At the time, Chicarillo was the athletes rep. And whether that's still the case now, I do not know. I know before that it was Sean Ray. But I remember Chicarillo, I would go to Chicarillo all the time with ideals. And Chicarillo would always have a reason why we couldn't do it. And he'd always say because he was in the circle with the guys and he knew how they thought. But at the end of the day, he's still supposed to be representing the athletes. Worst thing you can say is no if you take the ideal to him. So I bring this point up is because what I think really should happen now is to get a better representation for the athletes is that we should have some of the old heads like the Sean Rays, the Flex Wheelers, Lee Haney's, Jay Cutler's, who's now retired, some of the previous best of the best in the world that have gone on to continue business of bodybuilding off stage, to be able to have maybe a panel to be able to kind of get feedback from athletes and share that and come up with the best ideas and the best suggestions for the IFBB Pro League. Again, I think that's only going to make things better. At the end of the day, I'm all about seeing the sport grow, seeing more athletes make money, and I think that we'll get a lot more people, from the standpoint of athletes, invested in competition and trying to strive to get to the Olympia. But that's another reason I think some of the shows now are starting to get watered down a little bit because, there's the old saying, if it don't make money, it don't make sense. And then now you got, on top of it, now you got these people that are making money through social media. So why compete and why do these other things when you can do less work and do it by doing it through social media? So I think it's something that they should look into. If you really want to call the Olympia the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, we got to be able to get more athletes in the event, more money. And I'm saying it could be $1,000, to every other competitor in the show. And if you're going to up 50 grand, you can take 10 or 15 grand of that and put that back to the athletes that made it to the event, and then still up the prize money on the top 5. At the end of the day, if you can't make money, if you can't take care of your family and invest some money off a $400,000 check, or $150,000 for second, or $75,000 for third, then there's a problem. And I'll tell you, I made an okay amount of money as a competitive bodybuilder from other things that I did outside of prize money. And, I've got a decent retirement set aside from the money that I made because I thought about being smart and having money for when I retired from my regular job and everything else. I didn't try to go the lavish lifestyle. But that being said, very similar to Dexter, I had a very long career in the sport. Won several shows, won 5 pro shows, and was in top 5 with about 20 shows. So, again, I gave this a lot of thought, and I wanted to put this out there to the public and to the fans and see what you guys think. Please feel free to comment on here and let me know your thoughts on taking some of the extra money as opposed to putting into the top 5, putting into the other athletes' pockets that make it to the event. All right. I'd love to hear commentary from guys like Dexter, Jay. Let me know your thoughts. Any of my friends that are out there, colleagues from the 212s, give me a shout back and let me know. That's it. This is Trick Diesel with Real Talk. If you like this content, and I got more content like this coming, please subscribe to my YouTube page, and I'll keep it coming. All right, that's it for today, baby. Trick Diesel out. Peace.